Now just over in the glory land, I'll join the happy angels then, just over in the glory land. Now just over in the glory land, there with the mighty hosts I'll stand, just over in the glory land. Amen. There we go. Good evening, and welcome, as the sign says there. Got a good amount of material to cover, so we're going to jump right in. First off, people have been asking, why would you go to Arkansas for surgery? You've got it. It costs about 1/10 of the cost of the surgery up here. And that's with the airfare for my entire family back to Arkansas. So, I may come back with my knee sewn to my side of my head, but it'll be cheaper at least. So, we'll see how it goes. But it'll be nice to have full use of my arm again, so that's what I'm hoping for. Last week, we spent most of our time talking about this thing, the geological timetable and the age of the earth. We spent most of our time talking about some of the physical evidence that exists that indicates that the earth is in fact very young and that the global flood really happened. We pointed out some of the many problems that exist within the geologic table and how even with those problems, the evolutionists still base everything off of this, even though it's been proven erroneous many times. We talked about some of the human-like fossils, or human-like footprints that have been found in the coal veins, which we are told formed 250 million years ago. Yet they don't think humans are that old. We've talked about a metal hammer with a wooden handle that was dug out of Cretaceous limestone, which was dated to be 135 million years old in an area near London, Texas. We talked about an example of a footprint. I think I actually have some of these still. There's the one with the coal. There's the hammer. And then this one, an example of a footprint with a human footprint with trilobite actually in the footprint itself. We talked about polystrate fossils. And these were the fossils that actually are embedded in several different layers of sedimentary rocks, which we are told formed over millions of years between each layer. And then we talked about more scientific evidence for a young Earth. There's one of the polystrate fossils, a tree trunk, going through several different layers. We're going to go there. We talked about Niagara Falls and how Niagara Falls, if we went by the evolutionist thought that everything is continuing at the same rate, how with the way that Niagara Falls is backing up, it would have actually gone around the globe a couple of times at the rate it's changing now. We talked about the Mississippi River and how if it was really doing all the sediment it pushes downriver and into the Gulf of Mexico now, if we extrapolated that rate all the way back to the age they say the Earth is, the Gulf of Mexico would be completely filled with sediment. And we talked about the Colorado River, the evolutionists like to mention that the Colorado River formed the Grand Canyon. But if that's the case, we're missing 900 cubic miles of dirt from that canyon. So we talked about a lot of evidence last week. And tonight, we're gonna talk about everybody's favorite. We're gonna get into talking about dinosaurs. No, we're not gonna watch Jurassic Park, although I'm sure some would rather watch that than listen to me. But dinosaurs they're a topic that everybody has a strong opinion on. Some believe they never existed and that these bones are just being put together in certain ways to make it look like they existed. Then you have some that say, well, okay, they did exist, but millions of years ago. And then you have some creationists, which have actually pointed out that there's significant evidence to point to the fact that humans and dinosaurs coexisted. So we're going to look at some of that tonight. We're going to be talking about these very strange creatures with polysyllabic names. We're going to talk about where they came from and where did they go. Did these magnificent creatures of the past, some which stood 3.5 stories tall and weighed over 100 tons, did they even really exist? Those kinds of questions they're bothersome to a lot of people who are sincerely seeking the truth about the question of ultimate origins. And just like any other evidence we look at, there's a lot to it and a lot of stuff we can cover tonight. I'm not sure we're going to get it all in tonight. Getting kind of a late start. And then me talking about Arkansas Dockers didn't help. But first of all, did the dinosaurs really exist? Really, there can be no doubt about it. Dinosaurs did really exist. We have discovered their bones on all 7 continents, from North America to the Antarctic. Visitors to any of the larger museums of natural history can see the life-size replicas of these magnificent creatures, which make it somewhat difficult to suggest that they never existed. The first discovery of the dinosaurs was, as far as recent times, is considered to have occurred in the spring of 1822. Gideon Mantle, a country doctor in England with a lifelong passion for collecting fossils, set off on horse and buggy to visit his patient. His wife, Mary Ann, went along for the ride. While Dr. Mantell tended to the ill patient, Mrs. Mantell took a stroll and came across a pile of stones that had been placed alongside the road to be used in filling ruts caused by the spring rains. And amidst these stones, she glimpsed and found some very large fossil teeth. She took them back to her husband, who was amazed, never having seen such huge teeth before. He went to the quarry from which the stones had been cut, and he found more teeth like what his wife had found. Although he showed the teeth to several scientists, none agreed with him that they were from some kind of heretofore unknown creature. He, however, was stubbornly sure that they were. In 1825, he eventually named the long-dead owner of the teeth as iguanodon. Literally means iguana tooth, since the teeth were actually similar to those found in the iguana, only much, much larger. Several years later, more teeth like these were discovered in a different quarry. No one doubted that iguanodon had once lived on the earth. Meanwhile, huge bones of another creature that came to be known as Megalosaurus had been dug up further away in Oxfordshire. By 1842, enough of these kinds of fossils had been uncovered to convince leading British anatomist Sir Richard Owen, who worked at the British Museum of Natural History. It convinced him that a whole tribe, if you will, of huge lizard-like reptiles had lived in the distant past. And based on his studies, he named them dinosaurs. And this comes from the Greek word dinos and sauros, translated by him as fearfully great lizards, today known to us as terrible lizards. So soon, American fossil hunters also joined in the search. The climax came in March of 1877 when two schoolmasters, Arthur Lakes and O.W. Lucas, separately stumbled onto colossal fossil bones projecting from the rocks in different parts of Colorado. Lakes revealed this find to the well-known paleontologist Othniel Marsh. Lucas showed his finds to Marsh's bitter rival Edward Cope, and Marsh and Cope became the most famous of the dinosaur hunters. All told, Cope named 9 new genera of dinosaurs, while Marsh's total was 19. Now, no one who bothered to keep up with the times doubled the existence of the dinosaurs. The question no longer was, did the dinosaurs exist? The real question then and still is, when did dinosaurs exist? So there's been a lot written through the years about the substantial claims scientists frequently make about dinosaurs and their alleged testimony for the general theory of evolution. Evolutionary scientists, eager to introduce the world to the latest alleged multi-million-year-old dinosaur, they frequently make assertions without adequate evidence. Nevertheless, month after month, year after year, the claims are made. This dinosaur evolved 200 million years ago. That dinosaur evolved into a bird. No large mammals lived during the time of dinosaurs. They go on. Although many evolutionists find it difficult to see why creationists so often are skeptical about the latest and greatest dinosaur claims, mounting evidence is confirming that many creationists have suspected for years, and that is that evolutionary scientists are driven by a lust for headlines. In a speech delivered in Vancouver, Canada in November 2011 by Jack Horner, who is the most famous dinosaur fossil hunter in the world, he admitted that scientists have egos, and those egos have driven evolutionists to discover and allege things that are not what the evidence actually demands. In fact, Sasha Vunger summarized Horner's speech about the misidentification of several dinosaurs, saying, "Scientists have a big, huge ego and are therefore some of the easiest fooled people around." Rex Dalton, a longtime writer for the journal Nature, in 2008 wrote, 135 years of questionable judgments, some driven by a lust for headlines, have left dinosaur nomenclature in disarray, according to 2 new studies. The studies concluded by paleontologist Michael Benton of the University of Bristol, England, revealed that there are errors in almost half the names given to dinosaurs. In fact, of the 1,401 names given to dinosaurs from 1824 to 2004, 48% of them were either duplicates or embodied errors of some other sort, including a lack of sufficient fossil material. Okay, just how insufficient was it? According to Peter Dodson of the University of Pennsylvania in 1990, he said almost half, 45.3% of all dinosaur genera were based on a single fossil specimen, and 74% were represented by 5 specimens or less. You think about those numbers, it's no wonder so many errors have been made. And for some reason, I feel like I'm woefully behind on slides. And I am. Apologize for that. Got busy talking. There's the iguanodon, or the iguana tooth, what they think it looked like. And there's the megalosaurus, that they think it looks like. All right, there we're catching up now. Scientists have a big, huge ego. Yes. Okay, we're getting there. And there's the actual numbers out for you in print. And the last one we just talked about, almost half, 45.3%. So now we're moving on. So why? Well, Dalton and the scientist he interviewed, they referred to the extent of the problems as scary, as bad, and as a shock. So why so many shocking mistakes regarding the naming and interpretation of dinosaur fossils? Why is it that scientists have attempted to make so much out of so few fossil specimens? It is due in large part to pressure placed upon fossiliologists by funding agencies and publishers, as this reads. Thank you, brother, for the water. As more public money came to be used for exploration projects, there was a growing risk that funding agency and journal pressures might lead to unnecessary naming of genera or species. And Dalton said this is exactly what happened in the U.S. and abroad. During the last 30 years of the 19th century, fossil hunter Othniel Marsh named 80 dinosaurs. Unsurprisingly, this man who worked so feverishly in hopes of becoming America's king of the dinosaurs, he had a very poor success rate. Of the 80 dinosaurs he named, only 23 are still valid. As usual, you look at things like this. Follow the money. A lot of these scientists, they're just out for their next grant, so they can go dig in another place. And sadly, facts and evidence really don't have much to do with many of their money gets in the way. So consider another dinosaur fossil hunter. And this guy's got quite a name. Dong Heming, I'll just say it that way, of China. 36% of the dinosaurs he named from 1973 to 2004 are now considered invalid. As might be expected, his early work was done when there was pressure on Chinese scientists to discover new species. And sadly, countless erroneous and misleading claims about dinosaurs have come to pass because of fame, or seeking fame, or a lust for headlines. Many interpretations of dinosaur fossils once thought to be ironclad have been shown time and again to be flawed. Some species turn out not to even be dinosaurs. And these fossils that are from dinosaurs have never been proven to be millions of years old, or much less millions of years older than human bones, as is constantly alleged. Evolutionists they've never come close to proving that fish evolved into dinosaurs or that dinosaurs evolved into birds. What has reportedly been the case for the last century is that today's great proof of evolution is often tomorrow's back page retraction. So, let's look at the conflict here. So, let's get back to when dinosaurs existed. We'll just go with the fact that they existed and move on from there. So, today, there's a very big controversy between evolutionists and creationists regarding the matter of exactly when dinosaurs existed. In fact, a chasm exists between these two groups that it can never be bridged, so long as each side maintains its present view. Evolutionists advocate that the dinosaurs evolved from some ancient reptiles 200 million years ago, and that they became extinct roughly 65 to 70 million years ago. Man, in one form or another, allegedly evolved roughly 2 to 3 million years ago, and thus was separated from the dinosaurs by approximately 65 million years of geologic time. Creationists who accept Genesis chapters 1 through 11 as an accurate historical record of God's his creation, his creative activity, oppose such claims and instead maintain that the dinosaurs were created by God within the 6 literal days described in the biblical record. Thus, man and the dinosaurs would have been created at essentially the same time and would have lived together as contemporaries on the earth. One thing on which both creationists and evolutionists do agree is that dinosaurs make marvelous teaching tools. Rare is this adult, and even more rare is the child who does not have a keen interest in dinosaurs. These magnificent beasts with the odd names capture our attention as we fixate on their massive size, their lizard-like skin, or the terror they apparently were able to create as they roam the earth. From kindergarten through graduate school, dinosaurs frequently are used as a tool to indoctrinate students regarding the fact of organic evolution. In most public schools, colleges, university settings, whenever dinosaurs are discussed, it is in the context of evolutionary origin, development, and extinction. Students are told that these wondrous animals evolved from some ancient reptile into what we know now as birds or other such animals. In such a setting, it's commonplace to use the dinosaurs to instruct on the ancient nature of the earth and or universe. But we've talked about it before. What kind of effect does this kind of teaching have on young minds? And not even young minds, on older people's minds. But because almost all youngsters have a fascination with dinosaurs, and because teachers are among the most trusted of all adults, children often accept without question evolutionary dogma and its accompanying concept of an ancient earth. So, what is the net result of that? If testimony from many of the evolutionists themselves can be accepted as at face value, the study of dinosaurs was a deciding factor in their conclusion to abandon their belief in God and to accept in its place organic evolution. Evolutionists like Stephen Jay Gould, Robert Baker, and others are on record as stating that it was a study of dinosaurs at a very young age which set them on the lifelong path as evolutionists. Because dinosaurs are fascinating to children, because they are such an effective teaching aid, and because they generally are used to teach evolution, these creatures, they represent a formidable tool to be used in robbing students of all ages of their faith in God and His Word. And this makes the controversy over dinosaurs extremely important. So, when did dinosaurs exist? Knowledgeable, conservative Bible students are fully aware of the plain and simple teachings of the Bible concerning the creation of all life forms, including the dinosaurs. Exodus chapter 20, verse 11 could not be any clearer. Then it says, "For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy." So consider this. If God made in the 6 days of creation the heavens, the earth, the seas, and all that is in them, what does that leave out? The answer, of course, is absolutely nothing. Furthermore, Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 clearly states that at the end of the 6 days, the creation was finished. If God created everything in 6 days, and if at the end of those 6 days the creation was finished, then everything that was created in those 6 days. So, what then does this mean? It simply means that dinosaurs and men lived as contemporaries on the earth. There is really no other conclusion that respects the clear statements of the verbally inspired Word of God. For some, however, this conclusion simply is not acceptable, and they have gone to great lengths to try and avoid the implications of the Bible's teaching on this subject. Contrast such statements as man is a very recent newcomer to this planet with statements from Jesus Christ himself when he said, "But from the beginning of the creation, male and female made he them." And Mark. Further, we can contrast such statements as, "All of these are recent additions to the earth geologically," to the statements of the inspired Apostle Paul when he said, "For the invisible things of him since the creation of the world are clearly seen, being perceived through the things that are made, even his everlasting power and divinity, that they may be without excuse." Romans chapter 1, verse 20. The term perceived is from the Greek neo, a word used for rational human intelligence. Paul, speaking by inspiration, stated that someone human was perceiving. What were they perceiving? They were perceiving the things that God had made. How long had they been perceiving those things? Well, since the creation of the world. Who, from a human vantage point, was doing the perceiving? Adam. So the apostle's point was that Adam and Eve had been present since the creation of the world as part of the 6-day creative activity of God. And he was perceiving the things that were made, and that includes the dinosaurs. So, here's the behemoth. We've all heard that term before, and we've actually seen it. Does the Bible speak of dinosaurs? Conservative Bible scholars look to Job chapter 40, verses 15 through 24, and answer with a resounding yes. So let's look at those verses. "Behold now, behemoth, which I made as well as you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold now, his strength is in his loins, and his power in the muscles of his belly. He bends his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze. His limbs are like bars of iron. He is the first of the ways of God. Let his maker bring near his sword. Surely the mountains bring him food, and all the beasts of the field play there. Under the lotus plants he lies down, in the covert of the reeds and the marsh. The lotus plants cover him with shade. The willows of the brook surround him. If a river rages, he is not alarmed. He is confident, though the Jordan rushes to his mouth. Can anyone capture him when he is on watch? With barbs can anyone pierce his nose? What is this behemoth creature? Some have argued that it is an elephant or a hippopotamus, but the text says he is the first of the ways of God, and that he bends his tail like a cedar. There are creatures, dinosaurs, larger than elephants, and the largest dinosaur is thought to have looked like this. The Argentinosaurus stood over 3 stories tall and weighed over 100 tons. And have you ever seen the tails of either an elephant or a hippo, or of a hippo? They're not that impressive. Yes, the Bible does speak, both directly and indirectly, of dinosaurs. And the Bible teaching is plain. Men and dinosaurs lived on earth at the same time. There is really no other view that can be entertained respecting the verbal, plenary inspiration of God's Word. The evolutionary claims of dinosaurs living and becoming extinct long before man ever arrived are at odds with the scientific facts. Science bears out that the Bible is correct. Man and the dinosaurs lived on Earth at the same time. So let's look at some of this. In the late 1800s, Samuel Hubbard, honorary curator, we're running out of time already. I'll move forward. Honorary curator of the archaeology of Oakland, California Museum of Natural History. He was excavating ancient Indian dwellings in the Hava, the Supai Canyon in Arizona. And on the walls of the canyon were the Indian ancestors, where the Indian ancestors once lived long ago. Dr. Hubbard found elegant drawings of an elephant, an ibex, a dinosaur, and other animals. Dr. Hubbard stated concerning the dinosaur drawing, "Taken all in all, the proportions are good." He further suggested that the huge reptile is depicted in the attitude in which man would most likely see it, reared on its hind legs, balancing with the long tail, either feeding or fighting in fighting position, possibly defending itself against a party of men. Dr. Hubbard also noted the fact that some prehistoric man made a pictograph of a dinosaur on the walls of this canyon upsets completely all of our theories regarding the antiquity of man. The fact that the animal is upright and balanced on his tail would seem to indicate that the prehistoric artist must have seen it alive. Nearby, Dr. Hubbard and his team of archaeologists discovered dinosaur tracks preserved in strata identified as Triassic period, alleged by evolutionists to be more than 165 million years old. So the question is, how would the Indians have known how to draw such a perfect picture of an animal, the dinosaur, that they had never seen or had described to them by someone who had seen it? According to the belief commonly held by evolutionists, no advanced mammals were present in the age of the dinosaurs. Artists' reconstructions, in fact, generally show the huge reptiles living in swamps, surrounded only by other species of dinosaurs. The dinosaurs allegedly became extinct in the Cretaceous period, and the only mammals that had evolved up to that point in time, even toward the end of the period, were, according to the late evolutionist Harvard George Gaylord Simpson, supposedly small, mostly about mouse-sized, and they were rare. It's unthinkable in evolutionary terms that dinosaurs and advanced mammals, such as giraffes or elephants, could have lived at the same time. Yet, this news is not only old, but also incorrect. It has been known for years that large mammals and dinosaurs coexisted. For instance, a discovery reported in January 13th, 2005 issue of Nature challenged everything evolutionists have ever maintained regarding dinosaurs and mammals. The Associated Press reported, villagers digging in China's rich fossil beds have uncovered the preserved remains of a tiny dinosaur in the belly of a mammal. A startling discovery for scientists who have long believed that early mammals couldn't possibly attack and eat a dinosaur. not only do we now have additional proof of mammals coexisting with dinosaurs, but we also have scientific evidence of large mammal eating a dinosaur. The authors discovered the fossil remains of two different mammals. One was 50% larger than the previous mammal fossils that were considered to be living with the dinosaurs, and was named Rhiponomus giganticus. The other, Rhiponomus robustus, was fully intact and had a dinosaur in its stomach. I'm not sure. No, I do not. Okay. Yao Ming Hu and his colleagues who were studying this said during preparation of the specimen, a patch of small bones was revealed within the rib cage on the ventral side of the posterior left thoracic ribs and vertebrae, where the stomach is positioned in extant mammals. Unduplicated detention, teeth, limb bones, and phalanges, bones of the toes or fingers, in the patch confirmed that these bones belong to a juvenile individual of Psittacosaurus, an herbivorous dinosaur that is common in Johol biota. The serrated teeth in the patched skeleton are typical of juvenile Psittacosaurus. The skull and most of the skeleton of the juvenile are broken, disarticulated, and displaced, in contrast to the preservation of the robustus skeleton, which is essentially in its original anatomical relation. Although fragmentary, the bones of the Psittacosaurus are packed in a restricted area, and these conditions indicate that the juvenile skeleton of the dinosaur is in the remaining stomach contents of the mammal. So, we're out of time. We'll go ahead and wrap it up there, talking about the mammals with the dinosaurs, and we'll pick up there in 2 weeks. Next week, I'm not exactly sure who will be having the class at this point, but I'm sure you'll be in good hands, and then we'll resume on the 27th, finishing up this topic. I thank you.